Picture this. It's past midnight. The world outside is completely quiet, but inside these walls, the air is thick with secrets. Welcome back to another late-night deep dive. Today, we're peeling back the curtains on history's darkest corners, looking at the people who ruled with an iron fist, and honestly, absolute madness. But before we dive in, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button and drop your local time in the comments right now. Honestly, I just love knowing how far across the world these late-night stories are traveling and exactly what hour it is where you are. So, turn down your lights, get comfortable, and let's be real for a second. History isn't always written by the good guys. Here's what really happened. The Nile flows slow and steady under the moonlight. Its dark water catching the flicker of torches from Cleopatra's palace walls. The warm night air is thick with the scent of incense, river reeds, and a hint of salt from the Mediterranean. Just past the palace gardens, merchants are still whispering down by the docks, while guards pace the marble courtyards, their bronze spears gleaming under the stars. And right at the center of it all stands Cleopatra. History remembers her as beautiful first, dangerous second, and way down at the bottom as brilliant, which to be honest says a lot less about her and a lot more about us. Ancient writers obsessed over her looks, but most scholars today believe her real weapon wasn't her face, it was her voice. Cleopatra was fluent in a dozen languages, which was insanely rare for a ruler back then, while other leaders hid behind translators. She was talking direct to diplomats, generals, and kings. Scholars still argue about whether Roman historians hyped up her charms just so their powerful men didn't look like idiots for falling under her spell. See, it's a lot easier to say a sorceress bewitched our leaders than it is to admit our greatest men got played at a political game. Ancient propaganda works a lot like a modern-day internet comment section, just with more robes. Now, we're heading deeper into Alexandria, where Egypt is balancing between unthinkable wealth and a total disaster. Rome is getting stronger every year. Alliances are shifting, and betrayal, well, betrayal travels faster than the ships. At a very young age, Cleopatra realized a brutal truth. Weakness is just an invitation for destruction. She was born into the Ptolemaic dynasty, a royal line descended from one of Alexander the Great's generals. By the time she came along, her family had spent generations dealing with paranoia, assassinations, and some seriously uncomfortable marriage traditions. See, to keep the bloodline pure, the Ptolemies often married their own siblings. It sounds like a movie plot, but remember, these were real people, sitting at dinner, pretending everything was totally normal. Just imagine being at that banquet, trying your best not to ask any questions. Cleopatra eventually married her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. As part of the family tradition, on paper, they ruled together. But in reality, the palace quickly became a battlefield, hidden under polished marble floors and silk curtains. It's a well-known fact that Cleopatra was eventually forced to flee Alexandria after her brother's advisors staged a power grab. For a while, the future queen of Egypt was basically a fugitive. Picture her now, traveling through the desert under a freezing blanket of stars. Her loyal followers are loading up camels. Campfires are flickering against the endless sand dunes, and the wind is slowly dusting the wooden wagons with grit. Somewhere in the dark, you know the spies are watching her every move. But Cleopatra doesn't just disappear. This is where one of the most famous stories in history begins. According to ancient accounts, she managed to sneak back into the city and into Julius Caesar's private room, hidden inside a bedroll or a rolled-up carpet. Historians still argue over the exact details, because ancient writers loved a good dramatic twist as much as modern filmmakers do. But the image sticks, because it perfectly captures her reputation. She wasn't just a queen, she was a survivor. You can almost see the exhausted servants, dragging heavy rolls of fabric through the palace hallways, while the Roman guards barely even glance at them. Then, suddenly, Cleopatra herself steps out, calm, calculated, and ready to gamble the entire future of Egypt on a single conversation. And somehow, it actually works. Caesar becomes both her political ally and her lover. Together, they crush her rivals, including her brother, Ptolemy XIII. They say he drowned while trying to escape a battle after falling into the Nile wearing full armor. It's a grim reminder that ancient military gear weighed about as much as a small horse. After Caesar's victory, Alexandria changes. The city starts glowing with this new kind of confidence. The markets are overflowing with spices, manuscripts, ivory carvings, and bright fabrics imported from distant kingdoms. Philosophers are arguing in the massive libraries, while ships from all over the known world crowd the harbors. But underneath all that prosperity, there's a constant, lingering fear. Because Cleopatra knows one thing: Rome doesn't share power, Rome consumes it. Every alliance comes with invisible chains attached. Picture yourself wandering through the palace rooms, under painted ceilings and gold-trimmed furniture, while the servants whisper about Roman politics. Assassinations in Rome send shockwaves all the way to Egypt, and when Julius Caesar is murdered in 44 BC, Cleopatra suddenly loses her biggest protector. The game just got a lot more dangerous. For most rulers, this would have been the beginning of the end, but for Cleopatra, it was just another calculated move. Soon, she forms an alliance with Mark Antony, one of Rome's most powerful generals. Their relationship becomes the stuff of legends. Almost instantly, massive banquets, grand ceremonies, all political moves carefully wrapped in the guise of love. Ancient writers talk about parties where pearls were dissolved in wine. Exotic animals entertained the guests, and entire rooms glowed with the light of scented oil lamps. There's even this weird historical detail where Cleopatra actually rigged a fishing trip for Antony. She had divers sneak down and hook fish onto his line just to make him look impressive. See, even powerful Roman generals enjoyed a fake win every now and then. Human ego? It's the one thing that survives every civilization. But behind the luxury and the spectacle, the tension is building. Rome starts painting Cleopatra as this dangerous foreign temptress, a threat to everything Roman. Octavian, the future Augustus, is a master of propaganda. He starts telling everyone she's cunning, seductive, and has this almost supernatural influence. And honestly, maybe some of that fear was justified. Because Cleopatra did something most Roman leaders couldn't stomach. She wasn't just standing next to powerful men like a trophy. She was negotiating empires as an equal. The mood in the palace turns stone cold. Messengers are constantly arriving. War prep is happening in the shadows. Ships are crowding the harbors, while blacksmiths are hammering out weapons deep into the night. Picture yourself standing by the palace windows, looking out at the Alexandria coast, where torchlit warships are swaying slowly in the dark water. Somewhere out there, Octavian is coming. The coming conflict would decide the fate of Egypt. And like so many rulers caught in the grip of history, Cleopatra started walking that thin line between brilliance and desperation. The final blow came at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC, where Octavian's forces crushed the fleet of Antony and Cleopatra. Historians still argue today whether Cleopatra's retreat during the battle was a strategic necessity, a panic attack, or a plan that just went horribly wrong. Whatever the truth is, the result is total destruction. Alexandria finally falls. Inside the palace, the music is replaced by silence. The servants disappear. The treasury rooms are stripped bare. Roman soldiers walk through the same hallways that were once filled with luxury and confidence. The world Cleopatra spent years protecting is being taken from her, room by room. Then comes the ending that history never forgets. Ancient stories say Cleopatra died from the bite of a snake, though scholars still debate if it was a cobra or just a more realistic case of poison. Either way, her death turned into a legend in an instant. Picture that final scene. In total silence. The heavy curtains barely moving in the warm Egyptian air. Gold lamps flickering against the painted walls. Outside, the Nile keeps flowing, just like it always has, completely indifferent to the empires collapsing on its banks. And somewhere, far beyond the fading glory of Alexandria, inside cold, dark fortresses, even darker queens are waiting. And just like that, another shadow from the past fades into the dark. But here's the thing, the worst monsters in history, they slept perfectly fine at night, while the rest of the world trembled. Makes you think, doesn't it? Anyway, that's enough heavy thinking for tonight. The sun is still hours away, and it's time to let your mind finally rest. If you want to keep drifting through these lost stories with me, make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. But for now, close your eyes, sleep well, and I'll see you in the next midnight hour. Good night.